trying to see if I can put this live.
Okay. Well, so first of all, welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us on this for this webinar about our upcoming Mindset Maps coach training. It's something that this is going to be our third cohort, our third round, and we have specifically set the timing of this to be friendly for our Asia Pacific members. So although some from Europe may be able to also be on, and from the US, I don't know. It depends depends on how late you can keep your hours. Mickey and I what we want to do is kind of go over, just a review. I think most of you who are watching or listening hopefully know something about the Mindset Maps inventory, but we'll just review that briefly and mostly talk about what the coach training is, and of course get your questions about that. Anything you want to add, Mickey, before as we get started? I see.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to say that, as Robert said, this time we focus on the training, and we'll speak more about the exact timing, but the starting time is going to be 7:30 p.m. Pacific time, which is 8 a.m. in India, 10:30 in China, 11:30 in Tokyo, and 12:30 in Sydney, Australia. So you're going to be seeing this later, but those are the timings. And so that's very suitable for West Coast United States and Asia, but it's possible to do as if you're a night owl, as Robert said, from Europe as well. And then we have another cohort, which is going to be in October, which is going to be more specifically geared for Europe again. So yeah, that's what I wanted to add. Maybe we can start sharing.
Yeah, so here we go. Let's share slides and let's say a little bit about what the program is. So this is, we want to talk about the coach training opportunity here. And why is the Success Mindset Maps inventory special? So it's an online tool for entrepreneurs and business leaders, coaches and consultants, and actually a little bit more. We have another slide where we'll say how we have been, how our coach faculty has been using it and in which ways. But this whole issue of mindset has been, everybody knows that it makes a difference, but it's kind of a mystery. And so one of the things that Mickey and I set out to do is said, well, what if you could actually map your mindset? You could actually sort of see it, and then having that, you could then compare it to other types of mindsets, and it can show you, the map could show you where you would need to, either extend or enrich your mindset or shift that mindset. And obviously, this is where coaching comes in. In order to be able to do that, it's not just as simple as saying, oh, I want to switch my mindset. Then you've got to actually go through a process to do it.
And one of the key things here is that it's a paradigm shift, because basically what we are saying is that mindset is not a fixed thing. It's something that you set and reset. So we go one step beyond the growth mindset and fixed mindset, where people basically fall into these two categories. So you're kind of in a box, and then you're supposed to, okay, so I'm fixed mindset, I need to change that. I'm growth mindset, I'm okay. And what we are saying is that, well, growth mindset is great, but even if you have a growth mindset, there are different mindsets that support different goals and different contexts. So we wanted to empower people so that they feel like, okay, I can actually reset my mind if I want to, and there is a particular mindset that I need for a particular situation.
And going on with that, we have also found that for people who are coaches, that being able to sit down with somebody and have this map of their mindset is really a powerful way to do coaching. It opens up a lot of very interesting conversations. So it's and it can be, we'll see there's many uses of it. In fact, maybe let me go to that slide. How can we apply it? So there's, entrepreneurs, as we said, business leaders, but also coaches, consultants, and HR professionals.
And one important thing here is that I don't know how much you know about the assessment market, but it's an absolute growing market globally, especially, by the way, with what happened in the pandemic. There is a huge demand for ways of engaging people virtually and doing assessments. And most of the assessments are not very generative, but we believe that we've been able to create something that's an online assessment, but it's also, very generative in the sense that if you are, say, an HR professional, you could use this to mindset map the people that you're trying to talent manage and draw through the organization. Or if you're a consultant, you could use this for supporting a change management process.
And just also, so I think many of you already know this, but we're also in an ongoing process of development with the tool. So currently it's oriented towards individual, but we'll very soon be coming up with a team report where you'll be able to look at multiple mindsets and how they interact together in terms of a team, and finding out where strengths and weaknesses are within a team context as well.
And already, some of us creative, I mean, I have used it several times, but some of our coaches as well, they would gather a group of people in a room and they would put up the mindset map as is today, and then get just go around question by question with the team and put it in. So there's creative ways of already using it with the team, but we will come out with a team tool that will be very specifically intended for aggregating results for a team.
So specifically as a coach, what would be the benefits of certifying as a professional mindset map coach? One is, to expand your professional toolkit. As we say, it's a tool that demystifies mindset, but also we were saying it sort of allows you to go in a deeper dive with your client that gives you a real, an opportunity to, it opens doors to ask these kinds of questions. We found one of the feedbacks we've got is that people very quickly are in these very deep and sort of intimate places with their client.
And so the other idea is that it's an expansion of business opportunities, because in today's market as a coach, you often get asked, okay, so there are thousands of you, how are you different? And I think to be able to say that, I'm a mindset map coach, I have a mindset map tool that's able to measure something that's everybody knows is very important, but it's very hard to measure, is a great way to differentiate. So we are seeing this as a differentiating tool in a tender, in a bid, or in a meeting when you're pitching yourself as a coach.
So if you haven't seen it, the mindset map, it's this is the kind of map here. I mean, it's you see that consists of a number of icons, and we selected certain sort of archetypal or iconic figures to represent different kinds of mindset. We know that some of that can be a little bit problematic, and people kind of initially confuse mindset with personality, because we're not saying you need to have the personality of somebody like a Steve Jobs or a Jeff Bezos. We're saying that, but these figures certainly represent a certain way of looking at their business and looking at business goals. So the mindset map itself, by the way, is organized around goals. What are some of the key goals? And then the whole idea is there's as we'll see, there's an ideal mindset for that particular goal. And mindset here, maybe we should point out, there's three different levels of mindset that we work with in the mindset map, which are, the meta mindset, which is big picture clarity, macro mindset, which is habits of success, and micro mindset, which is ongoing priorities.
And one key question, kind of going back to the coach perspective here, is that, you're going to get this question. Well, we've seen lots of personality assessment tools. How is this different? And one of the fundamental ways of this being different is that, personality is supposed to be a mix of nature and nurture, but nature is a big part. And, it sort of relates to a born temperament that you're born with. And then okay, so now I know I have this personality, I'm an extrovert, and that's it. I will always be an extrovert. Um, Whereas basically mindset says, it's a different way of looking at a human being. It's, I have certain goals and I have certain mindsets, and does my mindset support the achievement of my goals? So as an individual, I will take the mindset map several times as opposed to a personality profile. Once you have done your personality profile, you're done. But mindset maps, you will take it as you go through a change management process, for example, or a personal development process. So that's an opportunity for you as a coach as well, that you can use the tool more than once.
And as we were saying, the kind of the key thing, and this is one of the fundamental values of it, is you have, you get a map of your current mindset and what would be the ideal mindset given the goal that you have or that you're working towards. So in this case, the map on the left has my picture in the middle. That's would be my current mindset in that particular time. That's not my personality. And that's what Mickey was saying is an important thing. The one on the right is given if I want to have greater innovation and resilience, I would need to develop those characteristics. And you see on the left, the map on the left side, there's these, some of the icons are highlighted in red, and those would be the ones that would be most important for me to work with. And that's where, again, a coach comes in, because even though, as we were saying, mindset is not permanent, it's not, it takes work and it takes support to change it.
Yeah. So, the core part of the mindset map assessment is to get a comparison. And in addition to the comparison, there's, a lot more that you also get, because you're going to have an overview of your top mindset characteristics in the three areas of meta, macro, and micro. And then there is a set of suggestions for improvement. And again, it's very interesting. People do not pay attention necessarily of all the features. So that's where the coach's strength comes in, because people see, like, oh, there is some kind of a suggestion here, but what do I do with that? Identity level elicitation process. So in order to really work through a process like that, because there are 49 such tools built into the system, you essentially need the help of a professional coach. So what we are trying to create is that, through the website, people find out about the opportunity and have an initial understanding of their mindset, and then need some professional help from a professional mindset map coach to be able to actually make a change.
So now this much is actually already for free on the, that people go there, they can take that inventory, they get these, they get this summary of their characteristics, and their top 3 characteristics and the recommendations given their goal. And it even, you can see it suggests tools, but what we're going to be doing is the tools are not going to be active. That is, that if somebody wants to click to go further, then we're going to really recommend that they go to a coach, because a lot of these tools are NLP oriented. People wouldn't know how to use them themselves. So this is where we really find that coaching becomes important. Now, another thing that is probably very significant from a coach perspective is what we've developed as a premium report. And a premium report is a really powerful feature of the inventory, because it gives you a lot more in-depth detail. You get access to all the tools and understanding of where, the potential zones of competence, excellence, and genius are.
So yeah, the premium report is essentially the coaching tool that's behind the system, and that the coaches can use to work with their coachees. in order to really work through a gap analysis and then closing process. Sometimes you are 97% there and it's only 3%, and that's exactly where, for example, the premium report can be really interesting. How can I be my best? I'm already very successful, but what is that 3% look like? And sometimes there's a vast, like you look at the gap analysis and you go, oh my God, I always assumed that my mindset supports me, but maybe this is the problem. And then there's a bigger gap to close. But no matter what the case is, the premium report will provide tools and suggestions which way to go.
And I think that's this whole notion of the different levels of mindset that will become really significant, because they each require and they each involve sort of different types of both shifts of change of ways of thinking, but also of using different types of tools and processes. So that's part of what comes in here, that the tool helps you to and supports you to build that the missing mindset characteristics or the weaker mindset characteristics.
Often, by the way, coachees are asking the coach, what do you recommend? And coaches struggle because you're not really supposed to recommend anything, right? Like, you're supposed to be, as a coach, you're supposed to help somebody to find their own answers, teach them to fish rather than give them the fish. And so one useful application of this report is that it does recommend certain things, and it's not you as the coach who has to recommend it. It's something that's built on research and experience, and therefore it's a good middle way. Coachees love to get some suggestions, and as a coach, you can tweak it, but definitely there is something objective that's coming into the process.
Now, by the way, more than just access to the tool, we are our part of our vision is for Mindset Maps to be like a movement, and we are working. This is why we're doing specifically this the coach training, especially for Asia Pacific region, is we really want to have a global faculty. So as a mindset coach, you're a member of a professional community of coaches. We do regular best practice sharing, and there's also ongoing supervision and continued education.
And currently, it's really interesting. We're really living in a global world, so we do have already a global faculty of something like 35 coaches. We do have some supervision classes in place and a community where we can exchange best practices and give each other help about bidding together, or like you need a partner because you have the company that the opportunity that you're bidding for may need 10 coaches and you're one. So there's so many opportunities, and our vision is that there's going to be partners around the world, so that we can do Asia and Australia specific supervision, because right now, for example, the timing doesn't really fit. So it's either fitting more the sort of continental and East Coast people in the US, or it's fitting Asia. So the vision is that we're going to have these global opportunities everywhere available.
And in addition to that, of course, Mickey and I are doing a lot to promote the brand around the world. It's already appears in books, but we are working on a book specifically on mindset maps, which will be out before the end of the year. We're attending and presenting it at major conferences. So far, it's largely been NLP conferences, but we'll be also going to others. So it's going to be, I think, brand awareness will be continuing to expand.
And therefore, we'll be able to give referrals. And the idea is that, a good community, it's us being able to give referrals, but also the community within to pass referrals to one another. This is, there's a lot of solopreneurs in the consulting and coaching and training world. So you need partners and teams, and that's where we want to be very strong.
So here, just as a kind of a summary, and then kind of getting into what the training involves. So we've already said for whom, coaches, and especially that's who the training is geared towards: consultants, entrepreneurs and business leaders, and HR professionals. Then we said why. Well, it's a unique tool. It creates a differentiator. There's a global community. There's an ongoing learning and inspiration, and then there's access to a back end system, which we'll say a little bit more about. That's a very important part of this. When you are a mindset coach, you get a special coach code, and this allows you to get access to work with the data that is being collected with respect to your coachees.
So it's actually becoming a mindset map coach requires a little bit of a shift in a digital mindset. So, I actually know a lot of coaches who say, well, I don't do online, I don't do this, I don't do that, I don't like, looking at online databases. That's just not me. And I think, life has showed us that that's not a sustainable approach, that we have to embrace virtuality, or virtuality will take us over, and we don't want to let that happen. So as a mindset map coach, you learn to work with the back end, and you have access to various tools, such as, for example, B2B ways of inviting clients so that they don't go through the normal channel through the website where they see, all kinds of promotional messages. There is a way to invite, if you work with a bigger company, you can invite people so that they go straight to the inventory, and then they get the report straight from you as their coach.
So we've really made it so that it's coach friendly. This was our sort of idea from the beginning, that the free part is to be a funnel that brings people in, gets them interested, but then they realize in order to go on, they're going to need the coaching support.
And in the training, the process is pretty much about first an online module where we essentially look at the 5 core focuses that you could pick, because we were saying, yes, mindset is dependent on a specific goal, but there are 5 core goals, such as more personal satisfaction of what you do, meaningful contribution, all the way to scale your business. So according to those 5, there are 5 mindsets which we introduce in this first module, which is online.
So yeah, so in terms of the process, the coach training process, so there's 5 modules of blended learning. And the idea of blended learning is that some is done by watching pre-recorded videos. And as Mickey was just saying, the first module is all online, and it's videos of us explaining why these mindsets, which mindset and why for a particular business goal or outcome. And then that's something that I think is just important to know. Then we have our main module where we're going over the mindset coach process, and we have a 6-step process for that, and that is specifically geared towards how you coach using the mindset map. So I think that's a very powerful and very important module.
And then, we go on, sometimes people ask, especially, we get the question from coaches, so how do you tell what's the ideal mindset? Like what's the way to tell that? And so we say that, behind the mindset maps, there is a whole theory of success factor modeling and the circle of success, which is based on both modeling and research. So we look at that SFM foundation that is basically tells us the blueprint that we compare the current mindset to. So that's our third module.
And then our fourth module is really about they're all of the modules, especially the live parts, the Zoom parts, are hands-on. But then especially module 4, where we're really looking at how do we apply these 49 tools. Obviously, we can't go over all 49 of them, but you really get a chance to work with the tool. And again, we're in this case, you were coaching each other, but I think you get a really good sense of the value and the power of those tools.
And then finally, there's the fifth module, which is really an integration module where you are demonstrating your understanding of what you have learned. And, there's some peer coaching and some supervision from us. So that's sort of the exam part where you bring everything together.
So again, we're going to be starting this at the end of August. People can watch the first, the first 5 entrepreneurial goal webinars at any time as soon as you sign up. But we start the first one in August, second 2 are in September, and the last one is in October.
And as I was saying at the beginning, so each time it's going to be about two and a half. We might upgrade it because based on our recent experience, we needed a little more time. So it might be a little closer to 3 hours, which we're going to be live. And then, there's some pre-work that you're supposed to do in order to prepare yourself so that you already come with questions. So we want to flip the classroom and have people do more work about theory and look at some handouts up front, and then do more practice and more questions, Q&A, when we get together, so that it's an interactive session.
So then value to the participant. We're going to get they get an interactive copy of the generative coaching book, plus access to the coach for 6 months at the back end. You get a personal premium report and an additional 5 reports for practical purposes. And there's a 145-page manual that you'll get that contains all the 49 tools.
Yeah, so we're also learning, how important it is to give people access to those premium reports. So we're going to change that. We used to use the free version, but for practice. But we really see that you need to have the premium reports to practice, because that's what you're going to be using anyway once you graduate the course.
So that's kind of that's the main thing. And of course, big part of this, we want to have some questions from you. We're going to start with some that we know people have already asked, and so maybe just to begin that part. There's questions like, how is it different from success factor modeling and different from generative coaching, and there are other levels. So maybe first, just to address the first question, one of them, there's the mindset map is actually kind of, I often think of it as a sort of a meta map to the different success factor modeling areas. It's it's linked to the circle of success, and this is why we have that module about why how this relates to SFM and how we've chosen which mindsets mean what. But it's its whole purpose is to really focus on being able to define a particular mindset. It's not connected to any one of the particular SFM models, but it's a valuable resource to support any of those SFM areas, either next generation entrepreneur, collective intelligence, or conscious leadership. And by the way, we didn't mention, but we also, within the next year, will have a leadership module to the mindset. So we'll have a leadership mindset module.
Yes, and maybe addressing the second question. So people sometimes ask, how is this different from generative coaching or generative consulting, or even NLP? And so what we are saying is that when you learn generative coaching, you learn a new approach to coaching, which is basically based on this idea that you can generate change rather than force or push, right? So generative coaching is to learn to use generative change in personal development. And that's not what we are teaching in this particular course. In this course, you could already be a generative coach, and it's great. You can use all your skills. And in addition, what you will learn is how to integrate the mindset map tool into your coaching practice, right? So whatever practice you have as a coach, how do you use this tool, and how does it enhance, your selling power to a customer? How does it enhance your ability to measure results and prove that what you're doing is actually producing some results? That's what you're learning. And that's different from, even generative consulting, where, we look at a consulting process. Here, we're really focused on this particular tool and how you can integrate it into your practice and make it a stronger coaching practice.
Well, and just to add that in the generative consulting book, for example, if you've seen it, the mindset map is used in a couple of the chapters. So it is a tool that can be used in any kind of coaching process and consulting process.
Yeah. So measurability, in the business world, there is this famous proverbial saying, "What gets measured gets done." And, some of us generative people don't like to hear that, because, we think that generative change is more like an aha moment. It's an insight. It's poetic. It's artistic. It's beautiful. That's how we are different. But what if you can be different, artistic, poetic, generative, and also be able to measure change? Wouldn't that be great? So that's what, we are trying to do here.
Another question is, I understand that if this is a certification, will there be other levels after? Well, we already did mention, we are going to be coming up with a team report, and there will be another level that involves that, and then the leadership module. So there's going to be other.
So if you take those two, I think we will introduce, the second level, which is kind of the master coach level. But we are still working through that. Somebody asked, are there evaluations or is it just presentations? And as we said, it's a set of blended learning sessions. In every sort of Zoom workshop, there is always a lot of practice. We go around in the rooms and observe people and talk about it a little bit. And then in the there's a lot of practice that you're supposed to be doing between the modules, and then demonstrate that at the final module as well.
And we do have, Mickey's created some really, important, sort of scorecards where you keep track. And we do ask people also to submit summaries of their coaching sessions. So it's not just, watch the Zoom. I mean, it is very active and participatory.
Some people said, if I can't be present in one or two modules, what happens? We are recording the sessions. So in theory, there is a possibility that, maybe you could miss one session and then make up for it. We don't really recommend, if you can avoid it, and certainly avoid missing more than one module, because then it becomes harder. It is still possible, if there's something unmovable or there's something that changes in your schedule, you can watch the recording.
And then, as we said, we are planning to start a next cohort in
October. Yeah.
So, yeah. So that's sort of questions that we anticipate, but now we want to find out what your questions are. So, that's what anything that needs to be clarified, or one thing I did see, I want to acknowledge that Roland, you did ask, is there going to be sales tax added if you have if you're in another country or something like that. We haven't, we don't add tax. But if you're working with somebody where that's important, where there's some kind of VAT in the work that you're doing, you would incorporate that into what they would be paying. So like, for example, if they have to pay tax on a premium report or something, you could incorporate that into the
yeah. We don't have to charge you because we are a foreign entity and you're a tax resident in another country. We don't have to, we are not obliged. So, you know, the price is basically what you saw. We don't have to charge VAT.
Yeah. Roland, yeah.
Yes, now for a more specific question on the mindset map tools. Since I'm thinking of using it for helping people with autism spectrum disorders and so on, it's quite important that I use the Swedish language.
Yes.
And that's a challenge right now because everything is in English.
Right.
So how can I or we solve that issue?
Well, so one of the things that we're doing, Roland, is we are building partnerships with people where they would be our partner in a particular language area or locational area. And that's usually where we actually, just so you know, we designed the whole setup of it so that it could be translated into other languages, the inventory. So that would be probably a partnership type discussion. But we are, for example, we have a partner who is translating it into French. We have partners in Greece. So we are, getting the translations happening.
And the good news is, we mentioned the backend. So the backend is now set up that you can basically download everything that's on the website, including the questionnaire, the suggestions, and get it in a simple Excel chart. You can simply put in the translation in each cell next to the English version and upload it back into the system. And then there is a Swedish version created. So there's 50,000 words to translate, but once the translation is done, it's actually quite a simple process to set up a Swedish version or a Chinese version. Yeah.
Well, that sounds really, really interesting.
Yeah.
So how should we go about this? Should we take another meeting and talk about?
Yeah, probably what would be a good idea there, Roland, is we have some information, some material already available about partnership, and what would probably be a first conversation between you and Mickey, or we'll kind of orient you to that, and then we can have a meeting from there.
Sounds perfect. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, great.
Yeah, me too. Thank you.
Irene, I saw you had your hand up, but I don't see you.
Yes. Mickey, can you show to us what kind of the premium report so we can have a example, the premium report? Can you show to us? Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Do you want to do that, Mickey? I
can do it here. Hold
on.
on.
That's a good question, Irene. So you can see what the premium report looks like. It's very, I think it's a really, we spend a lot of time, also coming from working with our own coaching, using it and saying what is most important, what do coaches need, so to create this report. And there's a whole area on this report that I think is so valuable that I have never seen anywhere else, which is what we call the zones of competence, and being able to tell where somebody's competence, excellence, and where their genius is. Because sometimes what happens is that people become trapped in their zone of competence, meaning they're good at something, but it's not their excellence, and it's certainly not their genius.
So this is a report that I just, by the way, showed yesterday in a conference, and Edith, who was, the coachee, she agreed to share her results. So I can share this with you. But basically, it's a 30-page report which introduces SFM, the 3 types of mindset, and then kind of starts going through your results according to the 3 levels of meta, macro, and micro. Then there is what Robert just said, like a longer section on your mindset, micro mindset results, and your zones of excellence and zones of competence and incompetence, in fact. And then there is, a comparison where, you get the suggestions. So the way you should think about it is, first, the general information, and then you're going to have different ways of looking at, for example, meta as a rating, as a spider chart, where you can see, oh, it's interesting, something going on with the mission here. You can see it, this way as well. So that's a really interesting discussion with a coachee.
And then you get the top 3, which again also goes in more detail about that. Then the second thing with the macro mindset, you're going to get, okay, here's the actual ratings, but here you have different ways of visualizing it. And in this case, we see, this is interesting. All 5 of them are not very high. None of them are really in a very high range. And you can see that very clearly on the radar chart. And it'll show up also on the bar chart as well.
And it's really interesting because, for example, in this case, you can see that for her, she's not very grounded at the moment. She doesn't feel like she's recharged. And even though it's a self-assessment, to be able to see that, as we went through a little coaching with her, it's amazing that, it strikes her when she sees it finally. It's like, oh, yeah, that's the problem. I'm exhausted. I have been giving so much. I'm exhausted. And even though, again, I repeat, it is a self-assessment, but to be able to see it on a map, it has some kind of a powerful effect on people. It's like, oh, that's the problem. So, you can see it here.
And then we go to this very interesting part. This is the micro mindset. And this is where we get into this idea of the zones of competence. So this shows you how the micro mindset relates to the circle of success.
And I'll show what Robert is talking about. So there's these are the zones, right? From genius all the way to waste of time. I'm not good at it. I'm not doing it, and I don't spend time. And I don't like doing it, right? All the way to I'm good at it. I like it. I spend time doing it. I'm clear on my passion. I have a direction, and I know where I'm going.
And it's connected. It's not just that I'm aware of it, that this is actually connected to that. Now you can also see, we can also find the untapped competences and untapped excellences. So that, I think, is another key thing where you start to see, here's a possible excellence that you could have, but you'll need to increase this aspect. And then you get, here's the then you get the summary. Here's the big comparison, of course, where we get to see where are the real key areas for improvement.
So those are circled. Mm-hmm. And then, you get here and you get some tools. So hopefully it's going to work here because I'm not logged in as her. I might not be able to, but I could click on a link here and it does work. And
we don't see it, Mickey, because you're,
you'll have to, I will have to share. So if I click on, one of those links, it's going to take me to a particular tool and report, which is a self-coaching or a coaching tool. And so it took me to, Chrome, which is my browser. So here you have a tool that is immediately something that they can go through with a coach. So this is one of the 49 tools that we've mentioned that is actually built into the system. So it's not just here is your result, but it's, you know, these are some tools that you could use. I think that's kind of an overview of what the report looks like.
Roland,
Okay.
see you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, I see some similarities or connection to something called feedback-informed therapy that comes from the US. I don't know if you know about it. It's very simple. It's used in the in hospitals and so on, and it goes on like, if you and I have a session,
Yes.
I ask you 4 questions at the start of the session
Right.
to measure, and you give your values on how you feel and so on. 4 simple questions, and then
Right.
we have our session about maybe your leg injury, and we'll talk about that. And then the last thing we do is 4 questions about how did you feel
Yes.
our session was,
Yeah.
and also 4 questions, and you log that into a system over time, and then you can
Track.
track the treatment and how the patient is feeling, is having some value or not.
Yeah.
And often you don't remember all the small successes.
Yeah.
But if you show that to the patient that, okay, you were on a low 3.5 3 weeks ago, now you're at a 6.0.
Yeah. Exactly.
Oh, am I doing so good? And then you have a kind of, you could call it an extra placebo effect.
Well, I think,
and we've been using it at the former place I was working as a job consultant, and we could track the client, and it was so valuable to get the status before we start. Okay, you had a terrifying bus ride to me. Okay, then I back off a little bit. How do you want to do today?
I think it's that, and in addition, you know, maybe some interventions are also built into the system. So we are tracking and looking at self-awareness, exactly as you say, to be able to show somebody that, look, you're progressing. Can you see? I can prove this to you. And the other thing is, we are also suggesting tools and interventions based on the current measurement. So that probably is a plus.
In fact, Roland, there would be different tools for different levels of measurement. So if let's say in one of these areas of macro mindset, I'm very low, it will recommend one tool. If I'm sort of in the middle area, it's going to recommend a different tool. So that's another really important thing, that given the rating, you also can, you know, it's also suggesting here would be a good place to focus.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say, you know, quite frankly, it's basically, you got Robert Dills and Mickey in the room when you decide the intervention, because basically the idea is, okay, so if those two were here, and, you know, if you would have been part of this research with hundreds of entrepreneurs and leaders, you know, what would be the recommendation for a rating of 7 if somebody had, you know, maybe a sense of a vision, but not quite clear? What would they recommend? So it's really helpful. That's kind of the idea, that it's a tool that gives you an extra perspective, because you will have an idea of what to do, but now we are together in this through the tool.
And as you were saying, Roland, you can then track over time. You can see, as I do these reports, you know, and you're so right that people forget, especially, you know, it's like they're not remembering or tracking, where they you know, when they realize, wow, I've gone from 3.5 to, like you said, to 6. That's something that is significant, and that's worth knowing. So.
Yeah. Oh, sounds perfect.
Yeah, great.
Luigi was asking a question about Italian translation, and so we are in sort of a final phase of agreeing the partnership with Massimiliano, who's here, and two other lovely fellow coaches in Italy. So they are already working on the translation, but in case I don't know, if in case you want to speak or collaborate, I'm sure they would be open to that. Maybe Massimiliano, maybe if you want to put your email address here so that, and Luigi, you could do the same and you could connect into the chat.
I'm aware we're down to about our last 3 minutes. Anybody else have any questions, other questions before we wrap up? I see Joanne, yes.
Hi, thanks for putting it on, guys. It's great that we could jump in from down under.
Yes.
And I'm in Victoria, so I'm actually in a lockdown at the moment because we have a massive number of 50 cases in Victoria. We do lockdowns for 50 cases, so which is actually very fortunate because we do eradicate it then. But yeah, so thanks for putting this on. And I'm just a little bit curious about the business model. So I have watched a couple of your videos that are on YouTube as well. So I can see that it's evolved over time, which is great. So it seems to me that you've got that this tool you've got the groups that you're targeting that can run with the tool. So coaches, consultants, HR, etc. And then we potentially would be using the tool with our clients through either we would sell it to our clients as part of our package, or they could access it. We could give them links and they could access it directly and pay you directly or whoever directly. Yeah. Is that correct?
That's correct. No?
And then in addition to that, you've got this development program where you're looking at adding in the leadership
the team report and the leadership.
Yeah. So what was the other one? Sorry, the leadership and
team report and the leadership module.
That's right. So the team report and the leadership, and presumably people would need some sort of coach or mentor to walk them through that process. And then you've got the partnership level at the kind of at the top of the program. Right. I was just a little bit curious about the role of the partners that you're looking at in terms of, obviously you've talked about it where there's translation involved, and that's and I love the tool you talked about there, Mickey, about putting it into Excel and then boom, it's there. That's fantastic. But yeah, I was just a little bit curious about the role of partners in relation to those other tiers that are below. What sort of role or function do you see that having, and how does it fit into a business?
Yeah, so it's two different angles basically. The idea is that the team report and the leadership report will not be available publicly unless you are already a coach, a professional mindset map coach, and then you can use it in your practice. And you could just be a coach and basically use this tool and differentiate yourself and go deeper and have that aha effect with the numbers as we talked about. And there is another business level where you say, I am kind of an institute. I am interested in developing a local community of coaches. I am interested in becoming a hub. I'm interested in creating programs around the mindset maps to entrepreneurs and leaders. I am interested in running a coach training and certify people locally in this language, in this country, and grow that community. So that's when the partnership would come into picture. So you don't necessarily evolve through all the way to partnership. I think partnership is just a different sort of interest. You could stay a coach and be a master coach and integrate it into your business. Or if that's your interest, you could become a partner and then you grow a local business with us, with our help, but basically building your own community of coaches. and offering them services.
Okay, great. Because, you know, both Lorna and we're NLP trainers. So
Right.
I certainly do, I do about 140 days of NLP training around the country. And, you know, so, and a lot of the people doing the training are obviously coaches, but also and they might have a diploma of coaching, but really their core is the NLP.
Yeah.
So I see this as a beautiful tool for people who want to do coaching, but maybe aren't so keen on the traditional, you know, grow models and things like that they get taught in a diploma, you know, but it could be a way they could actually bypass some of that, you know, from NLP into this as almost an accelerated tool. Yeah. Yeah.
Like we said, it's a differentiator. It's and it's belonging to a, you know, a brand, a known brand, you know, a known global brand. So, and there will be, and the global, you know, community of faculty. So.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much. And thanks, Lorna, for getting on it.
Okay. Well, thank you all. Thank you for taking time to join us. I mean, and you know, if there are other questions that come up, you can always come in and send them to us, email them to us. I think, you know, you all have probably at least have Mickey's email, but you can also get that on the website. So I see, yes, Rob, or is that, I'm not actually sure.
Yep.
Is it Rob? Is that your name?
Yes, Roberts, but Rob
Yes,
for now is easier.
Robert, good name. I like the name.
Yes, it's Robert Martin. I'm interested. First of all, I want to compliment you both for what you developed. I was a little bit drooling when I saw all the things on the screen. It looks fabulous. And I was already very inspired by success factor modeling, and I think this is a great add-on to what already is there. And I have a few questions. Is there already someone involved in translating in Dutch or not yet?
Not yet. Well,
Okay.
Mickey, you're muted, Mickey. You have to.
Sorry. Yeah, we do have one Dutch person, Ed Voorhaar. I don't know if you happen to know him, who graduated and has expressed some interest in doing it. And then right after the course, he got a really big business in, and he's been very involved in that. But I could definitely, if you put your email address here, I could connect you with Ed, because I know that he was very interested in doing a Dutch translation.
Okay. Okay. Thank you very much. And the other question is, I sent an enrollment and also another email about doing the generative consulting next week starting.
Yes.
And I didn't get any reply yet.
Oh, really?
Yes, and I was also wondering, because my idea is first to do the generative consulting.
Yeah.
I'm also starting up a business, and when it's rolling a bit, then add this as extra tool.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, Robert. That as we were saying, you know, so generative consulting is a whole consulting process, and this would be a coaching, you know, a coaching tool within that larger process. Actually, we'll be going over that in the generative consulting training, because MindsetMaps is one of the tools that we use as part of the generative consulting. So that makes sense. That's kind of it's a bigger picture, bigger process thing, and then the mindset map is a tool that you can use as part of that you know, larger consulting process.
Okay. So how do I get in?
Well, you should be already in. I'll double check. You know, yeah.
I enrolled 3 days ago, and I sent another email yesterday because
who did you send it to, Robin? Who did you send?
I was on a website of the Deals Strategy Group.
Strategy Group. Okay, let me check.
You had the full program for 5 modules.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I enrolled for that.
Okay.
And I also wrote another email yesterday from the same site.
Okay, I'll be in touch with our administrative administrator tonight, so I'll definitely will check.
Okay, perfect.
We want to have you there.
Yeah, I want to be there too. So
You will be. Thank you very much for the questions, and thank you for being here. I'm going to share. I'm going to post the links to this video. It's going to be on the YouTube channel that we have, the Mindset Maps YouTube channel. If you just search for Mindset Maps on YouTube, you will find it. And so you can have access to the recording. And I put my email address, which is simply office@mindsetmaps.com. So any questions, feel free to reach out directly.
okay,
All right.
thank you.
Thank
All
you,
right.
everybody.
Thank you all.
It's great to have you, and thank you for all your questions, and thank you to Wei Wei and Annie and
And Irene.
Hi.
Thank
Bye,
you.
John. Speak to you soon, Roland and Lorna and Max
Yeah.
and Luigi and Ryan.
Hi.
Bye.
And welcome, Joanne. Thanks for coming.
Yes.
Pleasure.
Thank you.
We'll talk.
Good night.
All right. See
Bye
you.
now.
Ciao, ciao.
Bye.
Bye for
Ciao.
now.
Ciao to everybody.
Bye-bye.
Ciao, ciao to the world. Ciao,
Yeah.
ciao to the world.
Hej då.
Bye-bye.